So, hi, I'm James. James Laird, a confident 25-year-old man standing at the front of the stage, is looking around confused suddenly where the audio description is coming from. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about my journey and some of the things that I've been through. Specifically, I'm going to kind of ask two questions. One is, what do you think you're capable of? And the second thing is, though I kind of gave away the answer a little bit there, is, do you think I am as old as I just said I am? So I'm going to lead you through a little bit of my story, and I have a visual impairment known as retinitis pigmentosa. It is a degenerative eye condition that means that I steadily lose eyesight across my life, and I was diagnosed when I was 8. I was told that by the time I was to be 18, good chances were I was going to be blind. And very early on in life I realised that there was no point in railing and being upset and being aggrieved over my loss, because that wasn't going to change anything. It was what I had been dealt, it's what I now had, and it was something that I'm going to have to deal with. It was something that I have to adapt to, something I have to work forward and accept as part of my life. So I went to university. I did a degree, and my degree got changed on me after my first year. It ended up being that I did a combined honours, or as most people would actually consider it calling, a dual degree. I did a degree in education with a philosophy and psychology theme. I did, at the same time, a degree in disability studies, because I didn't want to restart, because I knew that my time was precious. I knew that I needed to make every moment count. With the clock ticking on my eyesight, I needed to know and I needed to push myself. I could never accept going backwards. I could never let others judge me. I could never let others' judgment of me be the thing that limited me. So after that, I kind of considered to myself, what am I going to do next? And I started up a business, taking every opportunity, taking every chance. I started a business, started a second business. I was good at them. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the difficulty in them. I enjoyed the drive that I was meeting and the incredible people that you get to talk with. So I did an MBA, or an IMBA, an International Masters of Business Administration. It was after that that my life changed. My life changed in the most dramatic of ways. After my Masters, I loved travelling. I'd been travelling throughout my time. I did study abroad in New York. And throughout my life, I'd been on holidays with family and loved living in different cultures, different cuisines, different ethnicities, different languages. And I put my CV with all my relevant skills into a job engine. And one of the top things that came up was teach English in. I thought, great. I clicked on it. It was teach English in China. Who wants to go to China, right? That's a dream, right? That was when my nightmare began. By the end of September of that year, I was homeless. I had no job. I had no money. I couldn't contact my family, couldn't contact my friends. I was sleeping under a ping pong table with my backpack clutched to my chest, protecting my laptop because it was the only thing that would allow me to survive. As the rain poured down and thundered and lightning struck around me, I realised at that moment that the life that I had lived and the struggles that I had because my eyesight condition degenerated, and because of the skills that I had to develop through that, overcoming barriers, making the most of each moment and planning and looking forward, I realised that I wasn't going to die there. I wasn't going to let this, the biggest challenge of my life so far, be my end challenge, be the one that defeated me. Over the course of the month, I used free Wi-Fi because China has a firewall, which basically allows for only the Chinese versions of our social media and our emails and our phones to work, though luckily Hotmail is allowed. I was able to contact my friends and my family back home after a week of living on the streets and moving around because I found a KFC that had free Wi-Fi. I was able to send off and let them know what was going on. My poor mother didn't sleep for 3 days, worried sick about me as she heard about my situation. You probably all know it, the bits of gristle on the bone in KFC, the bit that we don't eat because it's nothing, it's cartilage, it doesn't do anything for you. For 3 days, I was forced to eat that off of other people's tables because of how bad my situation had gotten. I have a metabolism disorder, which means I need to have regular meals at regular intervals, otherwise my digestive system quite literally starts eating itself. So the whole idea of vomiting blood and such became a reality for me because of how difficult it was. And I continued, I persevered. I did cash in hand jobs. I went to, on the WeChat, which is called the Facebook of China, I went on there and contacted schools looking for cash in hand jobs. I would then use that cash and walk miles across this city, the size of London, 10 million people. I'd walk across this city because I couldn't afford to take a taxi or get on the public transport. I walked there in the clothes on my back because, did I mention that when I arrived in China, my suitcase didn't turn up? So I only had the clothes on my back and the wallet with the few amounts of money that I had. So I came along with clothes on my back and did my job. I then used that money, all of it, to pay for a hostel where I could then sleep, I could then clean myself. I hadn't taken a shower in so long. I was amazed that the school would actually allow this hobo, this homeless, decrepit waif of a man to come in and teach their children, but quite privilege, eh? China is one of those few countries that loves having foreigners do menial tasks because it's a sign of power and prestige. It's a place where, ironically, it's called white monkey jobs. If you can get a white person to do a job that a monkey can do, it shows prestige and status, how well this organisation, how well this business is doing. So that's why I got these jobs. I was offered 300, which is about £30 an hour, just to serve tea in a Starbucks, because it was a white person, and they brought in all their chief executives and said, look how well our Starbucks is doing, we can afford to hire a white person. It was crazy. I couldn't believe some of that way I'd encountered racism against me and for me, but that was a new level. I didn't really know what to make of that, but I had to take it. I had to do what I had to do. I had to do what I had to do to survive. I'm not sure how much time I've got left. I plan to bring my phone up and leave the timer. How much time have I got left? 2 minutes. So after doing that, I realised that writing had been sort of a hobby of mine in the background. It had been something that I'd done throughout university as a way to de-stress. Unfortunately, I'd opened up a Patreon months before I left for my job to China, and it was the only way that I could get money, because I would then transfer it through PayPal and then would transfer it into the WeChat payment system. It was the only way I could get money from home. My cards had been blocked when in my school, who I will quote, didn't want a cripple damaging the reputation, fired me. Left me with nothing else but good luck. I then used my writing to fund myself, and I eventually made it to Hong Kong, where I was detained at the border for 3 hours because there was a James Laird who had racked up £10,000 worth of fines in China. The organisation that had taken me to China, which had then abandoned me in my time of need, had decided that if they weren't going to get money out of me for working, they'll get it out of me by making bogus checks and ruining my name in that country. I was detained for 3 hours before they eventually realised I couldn't be this person because, well, look at me. I was skin and bone. I'd wasted away. I made it to Hong Kong. Another 3 hour detain. Same thing. I eventually got home after a month of the hardest month of my life. And my life had changed because I realised that throughout all of my life, and as I said it before and I'll say it again, everything that I had experienced taught me skills that I didn't realise were going to come into play. I didn't know I could survive with 3% eyesight, unable to see in the dark, unable to go into the light or dark situations without having extreme difficulty, walking around with a cane in a country that I don't speak the language of, in a place where disability is viewed very negatively. I didn't know I could survive that. But then again, do any of us know what we can do until we're pushed to that point, until we challenge ourselves? So I'm going to ask, how many of you think the number that I gave at the beginning is my actual age? Do you think I'm 25?
I think you're younger.
I'm younger. I like that person. Who was that? I am 25. I just turned 25 in February. But I am blind, but I've discovered a worldview that I'll never change. And I hope that this speech, even though I'm kind of going over time and I'm sorry about that, does inspire you to believe that there are troubles that you will face and there are difficulties that you will come across. But I hope that my experience, by proxy and how much that I've been able to get through, makes you realise that you can do much more. I have difficulties that perhaps you don't. You have difficulties that perhaps I don't. But those don't need to limit us. We are not defined by our limitations. We are so much more than the sum of our parts. Thank you.